Good afternoon. It's joyful Christian Hermit. Trying to be joyful by the grace of God, and am still on the inside, but it's been a difficult day pain-wise, I have to admit. It took me a long time. My arm still isn't right, but I've been waking up with my whole arm numb and also nerve pain at the same time, which is an odd combo, but it happens. And it's coming from my upper back. I can hardly reach the spot. And my daughter had made this for me years ago. It's 2 lacrosse balls taped together with black duct tape. And you just position it in your back, and then you lay on it. Oh, if you lay on a floor with this, oh my goodness, it's a killer. But a hard mattress is good enough. But, of course, I have a name for them. It's rather grotesque. So, starts with a G, gonads. So, shame on me, shame on me. Joyful, not very nice, sort of crude Christian hermit, but makes me laugh, makes other people laugh when they see those. What are those? Oh, no, help my back. But, so muscles and pinched nerves and things, they really, get to the point where you don't want that kind of pain, yet you know you need it. So, getting through the day, though, I mean, it's hard. We just have so much stuff. Our world is not simple to begin with, and I don't have much, but what I do have is getting to me. I mean, I feel like I'm just glutted with stuff, but it's not a usual household, but it seems like just endless stuff, and 95% I just don't use. I'm trying to get rid of even more. I mean, I'm going to start just selling dishes. I just need one plate, a couple of bowls, and just try to get rid of the rest of the stuff. I want to earn some money. I'm going to owe a lot for taxes. So, I mean, for me, it'll be a lot for my low income, but it is a chunk. It's at least, even with deductions, it ends up being about 15%, which I know probably sounds great to a lot of you, but not when your income's real low. It feels like it's a bigger chunk, but we'll get by. But it's not the kind, I mean, I'm trying to sell stuff. That's what I got to keep at. And I have to understand it's just going to take a long, long time. Just going through papers. I'm on my 3rd day of trying to get things in files, and I'm done with the shredding at least. But it's painful going through papers. I don't like to, because it reminds me of the past and just all that I've been through. Even just the island years, going through the taxes and the receipts for that, even just shredding them. Oh my goodness. Stuff I don't really want to remember. And when I said the other day that there's no enjoyment in my life, and I said you probably won't understand it, but it's not that I don't have joy, though. It's a weird thing. And Father Vincent wrote and said, oh, I understand, I can't donate as much because, even my little bit of inheritance, it's going down too much. And I have to have enough to handle my taxes, to help out and have something there for emergencies. Like I needed a new battery last week. It had over doubled in 6 years in price, the battery had. So, but fortunately, I went to a place, and then they did put it in for me. And it took them about 45 minutes because it was not easy. I had to unbolt a bunch of stuff. But, yeah, so it's, at this point, I've become very lazy as far as the world. I don't want to be bothered by things of the world, and therefore I let things stack up. And now I have to pay. I have to put in the time. But we all have things that ultimately make life easier and give us more free time to like read. But I haven't had the time that I want. I'm to just dream about God and think of that. But see, this is part of this temporal life. Is we're not even hermits. We just don't have that luxury because we can't just go out and get a hut out in some woods. Everybody owns everything, and we'd have to rent it. And health-wise, I'm chilly and I'm inside. Oh, I've got to remember to put batteries in the thermostat, or the furnace won't work. But I get chilled easily. I wouldn't fare well in a hut with no heat and trying to build a fire. But it would be simpler, if we could do that. If we didn't have, back then they didn't have to pay taxes or get all this stuff ready and figure it out, and they would pay tax. I don't know how they worked it, those out in the desert, if anyone ever even bothered with them to come out and collect their bit that they owed. What would they have to give? A basket they wove? No. So maybe they were exempt somehow from, but it's not realistic for hermits today to live that remotely. But I did indeed, after I'd gotten rid of things in 99 or 2000, something like that, I reaccumulated over time. Even the shredder. Well, but I had things, my parents' stuff, I had to make sure that someone didn't take their identity after they died. So they said, oh, get a shredder. You need to shred everything. And so we have more complicated lives. So there's that shredder. Then I was going through putting all these warranty things and instruction manuals in a file folder. My neighbor gave me these suggestions, and I knew to do it, but I found it really fortuitous and a blessing from God that she texted me her ideas, not knowing that I already knew all these tricks. But it reminded me, and it got me going. That's a lot about our interactions. I was dragging around. I'd already been standing too long, trimmed off some branches off of a weeping trident maple, and did a few other things in the garage, and brought in some of this faux stone called air stone that I need to start figuring for the front of the house that I need to put it on. It'll go on like tile practically. But I have to seal it all first, all sides, and then make cuts for the end pieces. So everything has to be figured, and get my tile saw up and running and that kind of thing when the weather gets a little bit better. But I thought, get prepared and research, exactly how to install this stuff. So everything's a little bit different, and what strength of mortar I need for exterior, and I'll make sure I do it all correctly. But I thought, I got to get down. My pain was just getting to me. And here was a comment from someone. I hear you. She also has adopted a dog from a friend who died, who begged her to keep her dog when she died, and she did. How lovely is that? Sacrificial. But I'd been talking about how these dogs make me get up and keep going. And they do. And when I went out, I had a Lebkuchen I had made. I thought it was pushed back far enough on the counter, but somebody's got a very long body, a long neck, and a long head, and long little arms. And he ate my Lebkuchen when I got back in. It was gone. But they do keep us busy, keep us up and going. it's work, but I would be in worse shape. So they're my little taskmasters, and oh, but there was someone commenting, they relate. That was all I need. I needed that. God knew I did. God provided. One of you guys left a comment about, oh, I relate. And that person, Irene, she had twisted her ankle years ago, and it still doesn't work right when she walks. She's dealing with that, trying to walk straight, and her foot's going off in a different direction. And it's like I was more dizzy again today. So it's good that we all have contact. Even a hermit, it's good to have the reminders. And it's all progress. I'm reminding myself not to even try to set deadlines. I used to do that, set goals. But it would get overwhelming, because from today I've not been able to do a whole lot. I think it was 11:30 before I could get up out of bed, other than taking the dogs in and out. Then I'd flop back down. And so, and then finally got up, more shredding and more, I'm not even sure what I did, just, sorting, taking things to the garage, other stuff in to sort more, trying to get organized. But the amount of papers that we accumulate. But I did find some warranties for things I'm going to sell, so that'll be nice to have those handy. And it's just everything is part of life, and it's part of being human and being on the holy narrow pathway. Responsibility is all part of that, and then always remembering God too, that God is with us, and Jesus lived on earth. He had to deal with things too, with people, with obligations, with eating, with sleeping. Although there were nights that he would be up all night in prayer. That just sounds luscious to me. And even though I don't sleep well, I'll doze off and then wake up and then try to get back to sleep. But it's old age is part of it, and pain's another part. But there's Father Vincent had written, and had said it's okay, he says, but he's praying, get your taxes paid, and then he says, eventually maybe you can help again, but don't worry about it. And he says, make sure you keep some for yourself. Well, I don't keep anything from, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I need nothing. I did buy things to help with the project with my daughter, and she'll settle up with me. But I didn't think it was fair to have her pay for attachments to my angle grinder. But I said I'll just pay like a little rental fee for using this stuff. And as it turns out, she had to buy one, so my parts would fit with it. But I just don't, part of me just doesn't care. But and I reminded her, I said, I'll just sell when we're done with this project, I'll sell the angle grinder along with mine when I sell everything, all my tools, when I'm done. And you'll get $50 back for it, probably, or 40. And you bought it for 99 plus, probably cost her 120 with tax, or 115, but cheaper than renting, because we've had to use it for days and days, her angle grinder to fit the parts that I got. Because my angle grinder at 10 years old already didn't fit with their new parts they designed. They do that, I think. It's a big conspiracy, these companies, to have to get people to buy new tools then to match the parts they need to go with them. Could be. I mean, it would be smart. So, but no, I didn't tell Father Vincent. I don't need anything from. I never need any more clothes ever. I don't need anything. I don't eat much that costs. I probably should eat salmon, but I don't like, nothing appeals to me appetite wise. I mean, health wise, salmon is healthy, I'm told, but not a big fish eater. I'm not fasting. Just don't, people would think I am. I just don't have appetite. I guess the Lebkuchen sounded good to me, but even it I can take it or leave it, but it fills, when I get really hungry, it fills a spot. I put lots of figs and dried cherries in it. I have old figs and old dried cherries, dried stuff that I'm using up. But so that's just been my day, and praying along as I go. Not consciously praying all the time, but sort of talking with God at other times. Help me get through this or whatever. I know that there's issues going on with my body, because the other night I had a dream, and I hadn't seen this doctor in years and years. It's been 25 years at least, I'd say, that he came to me in a dream. And that was when he was still on earth. He's been deceased 6 years this August. But a wonderful doctor I knew in California who went to the Lutheran church. He was so kind. I loved observing him and his family. It was like how it should be. A husband really caring about his wife and his children, and them with him too. And his parents were like parents to me, with my parents not living there. They filled in with my children too. So it was just but it was a dream just maybe 3 nights ago, or early morning dream. And he was adjusting my lumbar or doing something. And to help with the pain. And it's the first time I've spoken with him or seen him in years. And definitely the only time since he passed. So that was a real special treat. How kind of him to come. But it was a signal to me also that I'm dealing with more pain than what I want to admit. Other than I've noticed I've had to start taking that breakthrough pain meds twice a day, in the morning and like I did just a little bit ago, to get through the rest. Praise God for pain medicine, huh? It's natural. Opioids, poppy. So I just wish they were stronger in a way. I'm grateful that I can get by on less, and just God helps me carry the rest. Christ does. It's carrying the crosses of the extra pain that the other doesn't help us with. But there's this wonderful, wonderful saint for today, Richard of Chichester. He was in really would be the early 13th century. He was born in 1197, died in 1253. So he died when he was 56. And what a another lovely human being. So St. Richard, he was born in Wyche, would it be called, or Wick, Wyche, 8 miles from Worcester, England. I don't know if I can handle Mercy wanting me to pet her so much right now. When he and his older brother, they were orphaned, and Richard gave up his studies to farm his brother's very impoverished estate, they called it. He declined his brother's offer of a grant, declined a brilliant marriage, and became a priest in Oxford, England. So in 1235, he would have been 38 years old then, Father Richard was appointed Chancellor of Oxford University back in 1235. Isn't that something? And he stood by St. Edmund during the latter's long contest with the king, argument or debate with the king, and he accompanied St. Edmund into exile. How lovely is that, you know? Edmund was exiled, and this Richard went with him, volunteered. I'll go into exile with you. So when Edmund passed away, Father Richard returned to England and worked as a curate. Now, that means I looked it up to make sure it's correct. I was saying it right and everything. It was like a parish priest or a rector of a parish. He was later consecrated bishop of Chichester, or Chichester, maybe it's pronounced Chichester, instead of Henry III's nominee. The king, Henry III, wanted someone else. So Henry III rejected Richard's consecration, confiscated his the money for that area, for that diocese, and he arraigned Bishop Richard, presented him to court, tried to get him arrested, had him arrested. So Bishop Richard went to Lyon, went to France, and was consecrated there by Pope Innocent IV in 1245. That was 8 years later, after the trouble that he had. Well, it might have been maybe 5 years later, because he did spend a little time in exile. He returned to England, not in exile, but in dealing with Edmund for a while before he left. He was with Edmund before he left with Edmund in exile, because Edmund having trouble with Henry III. And Henry also then rejected Richard too. But he returned to England anyway in 1245 and ministered as a bishop in spite of the king's hostility toward him. After 2 years, his diocese's revenues were restored, and Bishop Richard once revoked a priest's benefice. That is the money that a priest was paid for their modest sum, and sometimes given gifts or given a little bit of land or some property or something in exchange for their work as a priest. Now they get a stipend, some money. Mercy, I'll take you out, honey. But he revoked it because the priest scandalized the church. Now, if they would do that today, with priests that are taking the easy way, some of them do, or are, not watching their tempers, or aren't living a very religious life or spiritual, not caring that much to uplift the flock or to instruct them or set a good example. Some don't. They go through phases like we all do. It's hard. But they have holy orders. Much is given them and much is expected of them then. So with God, we should be, very concerned for priests, especially ones that are taking a vacation all the time or aren't putting their all in it. I had one that he would just repeat sermons. And other people says, we've heard him for years. Because I was there like 2 years and he was repeating them. And kept it up. He just didn't want to bother. Whereas my spiritual dad wrote out, he had been a priest by the end, just 2 or 3, was it 3 months shy or 4 months shy of 3 months it was, of being a priest for 72 years. He never gave the same sermon in all that time. Daily, he would write, even on the day that he didn't have to preach. He wanted to, so he would have Mass at an early Mass at this convent. And on his quote-unquote day off, they gave him. And they would have some other priest come in, or one of the women would preach, but at least they would have a priest come to consecrate. That was nice. They did that. It's good that they did. We were supposed to follow along with what we're to be doing as a group, as a whole church. So anyway, he would still write out a sermon and have an early 7:00 mass. A couple of the sisters would come, or maybe 3, and to that early mass. And so he, meant something to him. But just little things like that, if they're not taking it seriously or whatever, or if they scandalize in some way that isn't, a grave moral problem that they should be laicized, removed totally, cut their pay. Why not? That's what Saint Richard did. So he also once compelled a knight to carry a log around church after the knight chained a priest to the log. An eye for an eye, he taught him. He once compelled the burgesses of Lewes to exhume a criminal's remains after the criminal was arrested in a sanctuary. He felt, it was unseemly. Well, if a criminal goes into a church, they are to be protected. They're saying, I seek sanctuary here. And they're not supposed to go in and arrest anyone in a church. Of course, most criminals who might do that won't stay in the church forever. Usually the police or someone will talk them out, or a family member or something. It's rarely done, but it's still a procedure today. I don't know if it would be, but with a murder or something, I don't know. But in a big city or an area that's more, lacking in Christianity, but that has always been a standard, that churches are off limits for people being arrested in them, and they take refuge in there. If even criminals know about that, probably they don't anymore. We've become so blasé, lackadaisical regarding worship in church. Many have. That society has become glutted with people who don't think much about God or church. But Richard passed. He really towed the line. He expected others to also. He would have been one to believe, live as a saint, act as a saint. And when they didn't, he helped them, reminded them. So Bishop Richard passed away in 1253 while preaching a crusade against the Saracens at the Pope's command. The Pope had asked him to. So he was well known. He reigns with Christ and intercedes for us until the end of time. So, like today, as I've been sort of having to do a little oomph to try to drag myself through and get my little bits of manual labor done. Keep working on clearing the mess, organizing, straightening things, and getting tools back where they belong and everything in order. Then paperwork, all these papers organized and put away. So if I need something, I can find it. That will help me make everything better. It will have organized paperwork. So, I'm just going to ask Richard, Saint Richard of Chichester, maybe that time I said it right, Chichester, to pray for me, help me, give me help, keep me boosted up here to keep going, and try to help me live as a saint and think as a saint, as a righteous soul. Saint is a righteous person. Help me think in terms of truth, beauty, and goodness. and have lovely thoughts of others, and not, curb my critical and my any downcast and gloom or grumpiness in me. It's not necessary to be grumpy just because I don't feel well. Sort of silly, isn't it, when we stop to think about things? And I don't think it's bad not to have any real enjoyment in the temporal. There's my enjoyment is, God, I just loved reading about this Richard. Today's my dad's earthly birthday, and he loved England. He was stationed there in World War II. He was military patrol, and he never would talk about it, though. That's all I knew, was that he was in military police and stationed in England. And I know I have to get that little vase out because he sent that to my mother, thinking she'd figure out the clue, because it is stamped on it where it was made, some little town, and that was where he was stationed, because they couldn't say where they were. But he was there, and this St. Richard shares his earthly birthday. It's the day that Richard passed away, and just what a lovely, holy person, going into exile with his friend, this other bishop. He wasn't a bishop yet, but he was a curate, but he went with the bishop into exile, kept him company, made the sting of it and the shame or the hardship of, not having your flock. Most priests and bishops take it all very seriously, thanks be to God. And they wouldn't want to be separated from their flock and removed from their work for God and the church. So Richard went along to be a support. And then later he had to go to Lyon himself, because after Edmund died, Henry went after him. So he had to flee. So, and I'm sure he felt, people in those times felt glutted by the temporal, I'm sure. That's the thing, is it's the temporal stuff. It's just having it. But I appreciate it. I appreciate having a washer and a dryer. I have to hand wash some sweaters. That'll take, that takes so much longer. So when I'd rather be reading or, thinking about someone like Richard, or about what it is to, better to live as a saint in a way than to be one, to be a canonized one, I think. Better to live it day in and day out, to practice, to think, to work on ourselves, to think as a saint, as a righteous one, in truth, beauty, and goodness, and to keep on that path, because the canonizations are so costly. Few really could ever afford anything like that, even if they were, there's so many of you that would be up for causes if it didn't cost so much. Or family members you have, I'm sure you'd think of them. And it isn't because of their mystical experiences. That isn't what makes a saint. The devil can imitate those. But anymore, it can be, they're like fill a quota of sorts. Sort of like that DEI, make sure they have somebody from every continent and different lines and of what's contemporary, and cover all the bases and all ages and all genders and all, I don't know. I mean, it's, just seems like it's a lot of bother when we're all called to be righteous, to live as saints. And so I think that's better than the canonized types. My opinion again. But so like Saint Mark, when he passes, he would be, he would never be. No one could afford that for Saint Mark, the man that I know, the lovely young woman's dad. So God bless his real presence in us. And what lovely people in the world. Saints, righteous people. God bless his real presence in us. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.